Burgess here with Music Marketing TV. Today we're looking at Polyverse Supermodal new plugin. It's a filtering plugin. We're going to be using it to pump a bass sound up to 11. This is the core bass sound we'll be using. So a lot of potential here, a lot of frequencies to mess with, and just a cool riff. So we'll dive a little bit into the patch. But we're going to be using Polyverse Supermodal to do this. It's got two sides to it. There's a filter, and there's this blend that lets you go between them. So if you have it all the way over here, we're going to have the modal filter, which is, there's a bunch of different modal settings over here. There's sort of like an XY type deal. And in each one of these modes, you have these different like sections. So this one's like voicey formances. There's one over here for instruments. You can go between these, and this is completely smooth and modulatable. So this is just really, really crazy. It's just like a filter concept. It's basically a ton of bandpass filters where they have different peak gain settings set up to create these different formance modes. And this is controlled by the main filter over here. If you move this around, you can see at the top, the bandpass filter is sort of represented by these colors. So there's this side, but if we bring the blend over, we have just a really nice filter over here as well. So we've got like 3 types of filter. You can see it change between the different topologies at the top. And then there's a resonance, and this resonance is capable of self-oscillation, which is pretty beautiful. So super, super grimy filter. I'm mostly going to be focused on this. They also have, of course, your classic modulation you kind of have come to expect from Polyverse plugins, and some of these have some upgrades that will hopefully make their way around to other plugins, such as in the sequencer. Yeah, it was on the sequencer. There's now a unipolar mode, where before there was not. I'm probably not going to touch modulation too much because I'm in favor of just like straight automated type deal. But let's go ahead and dive right in, shall we? So our bass sound is this. We've already seen it. And I have here, let's go to the low pass and just turn it off for the moment. And the setup goes like this. There's a harmer that generates this. The patch itself is this like really messed up phasey. The beginning start of phase is also randomized. And the phase of the oscillator itself has some randomization. I might do a whole video just on this. But this is the core. There's a bit of unison. Order 2, the panning and the pitch have quite a bit of variation. This gives us like the buzz of the sound. And then we follow that into a hill distortion, some reverb, and some compression with the loads mostly removed, because looking to mostly make this some sort of a lead sound, not super bass heavy, although there is still definitely lows in the sound, just helps remove them. And then the detune, the harmonics have been shifted down an octave. So some harmonic specific shenanigans, but if you're curious about this is what it is. There is a portamento and a legato, and it's important to note the glide time here. So it's quite short. I've shortened it up. And if we go into the MIDI, the way the slides work is mostly slide notes. So you can see these slide notes that cause it. So that's this slide note doing work. That's what that is. So if you hear any slides, it's kind of a combination of slide notes with the with those settings I just showed you on the portamento. So this is the MIDI itself. If you'd like to create something similar, this is the riff. And it's kind of hard to see some of the slide notes because some of the slide notes are quite short. But anyways, that's the patch going in. Patch comes in. There's a Get Crazy bus that's got a bunch of other stuff going on that we're not going to touch. I've turned it off. But just so you know, if you ever hear this in a track later, there's a whole separate like parallel bus for this. And then the layer comes into the synth bus. The main layer itself has Supermodal at the front. It's going to be the main driver for our filter. And then we've got a waveshaper, which we can bring in for color. It is currently off. But if we ever want to make some notes brighter, this is just here as an option. We're probably going to use drive for this though. So we might wind up not using this. There's some multiband compression here. Controversial move, putting an OTT in there. It's like in everything, right? And then there's a bit of stereo shaping at the very end. So with all of this, and I know they have stereo shaping, I'm using wider over here. So Polyverse represented over here as well. This is a frequency specific deal. So I went with this. for that reason. So anyways, diving in now to Supermodal itself. So that's the patch. If you have any questions about the patch, I guess you could drop a comment, but yeah, let's move on to Supermodal. So first thing I want to do is match up the filter movement. So this is a super nice filter. If we have the resonance all the way down and our blend all the way over, we're going to be just hearing the filter. I definitely want a low pass filter for this. I'm not interested in band or high passing this. I want the nice grip of a low pass. So it is extremely responsive as well. It's not a leaky filter where parts of the low end are just constantly getting through. Some filters do that. The ones in Harmor come to mind. So I often have to reach for something afterwards if I want a low pass that's a lot more grippy, just, you know, kills whatever's coming at it. So let's go ahead and automate this bad boy. We are going to go to Browse Parameters, move this jazz around. We've got our frequency. We will automate this. And here it is, automated. And you could do this with a sequencer. If we come in here with a sequencer, and we could set it up to modulate this. The reason I don't is because I'm going to be doing things that are so specific, usually, that I find it easier just to directly make what I want out of here. So let's go ahead and get the show on the road, shall we? So first off, I want the high note to just pull down quickly. Yeah, maybe a little less. And let's bring the drive up. I'm just kind of curious. Before we do this, let's just hear the drive do its job. This drive also sits in an interesting position in the signal chain. I believe it's pre-modal filter. Don't quote me on that. I've not looked at the manual, but I know it's not just at the post output. And this helps give it a much cleaner effect. So, but just know it's not at the end of the signal chain as you would kind of expect. I think it's between these two. Like, I think it's visually how it looks. But again, don't quote me on that. I just know it's somewhere in there. We're just going to listen to it and use it when it sounds good, because that's what we're normally going to do, right? So we have this boom, boom, and this boom, I want it to like sort of jump up and then rise up right here. Yeah, something like that, maybe. Maybe even a little bit more sudden. And let's have the drive high. I want the drive high already. Yeah. Well, you know what? We're gonna end up doing it. I have to know while I'm doing it. It'll just be easier. We're gonna automate the drive as well, because some of these I want to be quite clean right out the gate, like this first one. But this like bow wow, that could be high, right? We can have a high drive there, and then we can jump back down here. So and then this is, I think we'll open the filter, but then we'll clamp down, and let's change our snap setting here to something a little more specific, like a half, or do we want to change it here? Oh my goodness, it's been so long. Oh yeah, right here. And let's have this come down right here. We'll have these like spikes coming down, and maybe we'll make one just a bit shorter. And then these will just sort of amp up as we go. And we'll have the drive grow over this and have it be very high right here. And then we'll have the drive come down. We start out with a very low drive here, so maybe we'll pump it up a little bit for the second one. We might want these to just be more consistently high. Ooh, yeah. We'll have this swell. We'll have the filter still clamped down, but not as far. And the filter, we want the filter to jump down. It's going to create that boom sound. That's important for the rhythm. Yep, let's focus on the filter movement here. And then we'll repeat whatever we do for the second part and then sort of customize it as needed. That is so greasy. I love it. Okay, let's have a middle swell here. Let's just hear what the filter sounds like when we do one of these little up and down guys. Maybe we have it come up to the end, so we have like I always picture skateboarders on like their U-ramp things whenever I do this kind of a motion. I don't know. That's what comes to mind. I just picture a skater riding this thing. Yeah, maybe we have it fill up and then we have this one be a little bit more sustained out, which will give a nice contrast because we'll go back to the first notion over here. Let's have it pull down and then rise up. Oop, we are over there. Okay, no, I think the spikes is the call on this one. Let's hear how far down it can go. It's a little too much. And let's also bring the drive down and bring it up as necessary instead of having it just high the whole time here. And we'll also clone this, so whatever we do there will be copied. And maybe really clean. Okay, so what I'm picturing here is to use, so that takes care of the filter bit. We're gonna really quick take a look at the modal, but before I do so, we've got this waveshaper that's not doing anything currently, and I figure what we could do is we could actually have this sort of be a contrasting motion. So whenever this is low, this will get high, and it will jump down before this takes over. So we'll have these like two distortions sort of like always on. So the sound is kind of always high energy, but it's like it's got two vibes to it instead of just like it either is distorted or not distorted. So making some effort here to make them sort of crisscross a little bit. And oh, you know what? We do the same thing, whoops, twice here. I hit enter instead of shift. So we'll just do this and it should match. Yeah. So that's this waveshaper just being turned on and off. Okay, so let's take a look here at blend in the middle, like 50% blend. Okay, so we're now hearing the mode. The mode is, there's a bunch of different ones. Let's look at just the vocal formancy bit and bring the X form down to just the first version of it. And then as you scroll through, you get the different ones. You can click on them to sort of set it directly at that, which is kind of nice. So we have options here. Let's bring the decay way down. So if we choose to lose the filter sound mostly, we're going to need to reduce the modulation of it because with it being very high, it's just not going to sound as cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep our filter movement, so we're going to bring the blend a little heavier over to the modal, but we need to make sure that this range of this motion is much lower. That way these bandpass filters that are doing work up here can sort of do their job without always being like in the stratosphere. So to do that, we're going to click on the modulation and we have a wonderful minimum and maximum. So what we could do is we can lower the maximum down so that we essentially set a cap to how far this can move. You see that? And so now we get much more usable movement, but we still get the benefit of like hyper-specific automation, which is what I like. Again, there are other ways of doing this sort of thing. If you'd like to use the sequencer in here, or if you'd want to use Gatekeeper, can do very, specific things as well. I'm just a fan of automation. If you've watched me for any amount of time, you've probably seen automation on the page at some point. So, okay, now that we have this, there are different modes. I think vocal formants is going to sound cool with this. And we could also adjust the filter range to get different variations out. But they've got some other ones in here. So let's really quick just take a peek through some of these options. I don't think instruments is going to be the call. This is like very heavy-handed. It works really well if you really want to change the sound. but I think we already have a pretty cool sound. I'm mostly just looking for good formancy bits. And there's an interesting option here. They have a filter here that's not really a filter. What it does is it manipulates the bandpass filters to behave differently. So it gives the illusion of basically a high cut, but it's not really there. If we move this one, it'd be like a low cut. But you can see how the filters appear and disappear. So this could be pretty interesting. And damping, I believe, also uses a similar idea. I'm not 100% sure about damping, but the partials, I understand that that's how that works. So this isn't like an actual filter. It's like manipulating the filters that are already there. So in that way, I guess it's kind of a filter. But if we bring this down, we can sort of get a more low, grimy tone in it. Okay, and what I'm picturing is, well, let's check out the different models without moving the X form, but I've got plans for this X form thing. Oh, metal has potential. Man, this plus compression is just kind of begging to happen. We're gonna stay. I liked metal a lot. Let's stay with vocal for now. So what we're gonna do is I don't plan on moving the X version of this very much. This can get like super bananas nuts if you start moving this around, which we might. I recommend not doing a glided thing in this case. I'd probably jump to specific points. But what I'd like to do is move this around on the glide notes. So we are going to, oh, the parameters are already open. I love that they keep this open. It used to close and now it stays open. It's so much better. Okay, we're gonna automate the transform, which is this right here, the X form transform. And on these notes that glide, which we can kind of see them, visually here, just these guys, we're just gonna do stuff like this, where they just sort of pop up and then we'll pull it on down. And actually at the very beginning, I don't know, is this a good idea at the beginning? I don't know, let's find out. Let's see if that made a big difference. Maybe we do a little bit more sustain. I don't notice a massive difference, so we're just going to leave that as is. We'll do a swell here with this on the longer notes. I'm not so concerned with the shorter ones as much. We'll have one open up over here. Oh my goodness, take this down. I'm not noticing a huge amount here. Let's move over to metal. And let's just try out a few of these motions. You don't know what's gonna hit till you try it. Oh, ooh, maybe we're going for this, whatever this one is. What is this? Detuned os. Looks like these are different tunings, some mathematically derived ones, perhaps. I like the variation it gives. And let's keep this just a little more subtle. And then again, we'll repeat here. We can always make these unique if we want specific motions, but this is only our first phrase. So let's just do that. Let's just mess a little bit more with the modes. Yeah, so there's a decay parameter here, definitely worth checking out. if you really want to get really trippy, you just make this higher, and it's going to get crazy faster. Okay, so now all we need is a kick, right? We just need to have some sort of a kick going. And something we can do to add variation as it goes is, let me also change my snap setting back to just cell, is we can take this and move the max around to control basically the filter range, which can add variation as we go because it'll move this formants bit around. So let's automate this, and maybe we have it just slowly changing up, and maybe on the second one, it just continues to change, but maybe get a little bit higher, and maybe we start out really low at the beginning. I thought maybe there might be potential, but decay is just too crazy. You can't tame the power of decay in this case. Not going to happen. One other thing that might be kind of fun to do is to have the damping really clamp down on it, so it's just super, and then pull it up with a compressor after. That can sometimes lead to some really cool results where things like verb and any sort of extra texture that gets tossed on. So if you were to layer this with some sort of a sample that's got like vinyl crackle or something, that will pop up with the filter when the filter opens, and that will be emphasized by the compressor, which could be a cool top layer. But that's just another idea that we could go down. But I think this is a pretty cool result. So let's just go ahead and turn this off. So this is before where, we just didn't have supermodal. And here's after. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.